Hi, I'm Carter Wilson, best-selling author and writing coach, and welcome to Motivations for Writers. So today I want to talk about something that maybe sounds a little bit technical on the surface, but the reality of it is it's very personal. And that's about how you write. Not what you write, not how good it is, not whether the words on the page are able to get sold or published or even get attention at all, but how you actually get those words onto the page. So lately I've been having conversations with some other authors, some interviews, and inevitably we start talking about outlining versus pantsing. So pantsing is writing from the seat of your pants. If you're a pantser like me, that's what you do. You can't even conceptualize the ability to outline. Likewise, those people who outline can't figure out why somebody would just make stuff up as they go along. And this leads to this kind of vacuum in the conversation where I think each person is trying to figure out if they're doing it the right way. And here's something I want to say clearly, there is no right way. If somebody tells you specific steps to write a novel, just ignore them. There is no correct process. There is no professional process. There is no grown-up version of writing that you graduate into once you've earned it. That's all complete BS. The reality of it is there are thousands of ways to write a book. So for me, I don't outline. I've tried. My life would probably be much easier if I were able to outline. But even if I try to outline 2, 3, 4 chapters in advance, I inevitably start writing and think of something more interesting. I can't help it. And I've probably tried this at least a dozen times. And within, I would say, 1,000 words, I start thinking of a better idea for the story. And what I've come to believe over 20 plus years, at least for myself, is that my outlines do exist. They're just deeply buried in my subconscious. And I need my fingers to be moving on the keyboard in order to tap into that outline one section at a time. Sentence by sentence, scene by scene, I just need to let the story tell me what it needs next. It comes to me. It just takes movement. For some of my friends, it's the opposite. Their brains can hold the whole thing at once. They can see shape. They can see cause and effect. They can see the arc before page 1 exists. They can see the ending, which to me is amazing. I've never once known my ending when I started a book. And for those outliners, it's not about discipline. It's not about superiority. It's just wiring. And I think this is where writers can get into trouble. They start believing that the process they struggle with must be the correct one. That resistance means growth. That friction means professionalism. And sometimes friction just means you're doing something out of sync with how your brain works. I've watched writers stall because they were trying to force themselves into a process that looked respectable or organized or impressive. They weren't blocked creatively. They were blocked psychologically. They were trying to become someone else's version of a writer. And honestly, the cost of doing that is significant. Because when your process doesn't fit you, the work is harder than it needs to be. You start dreading the page. You start negotiating with yourself. You start wondering why writing feels so difficult and why it's so easy for everyone else. And that's when the self-doubt creeps in. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I don't have enough discipline. Maybe I'm just pretending. Let me be very clear about something. Struggle does not automatically mean growth. Difficulty does not automatically mean virtue. And suffering is not proof that you're doing it right. Now, that said, I want to be careful with these comments. This isn't an argument for comfort or laziness. You not only absolutely should experiment, you have to experiment. You won't discover that your brain is wired to be a pantser if you don't try outlining, and vice versa. You should try hybrid approaches. You should push yourself, experiment. But experimentation is not the same thing as self-erasure. It can take hundreds of thousands of words to understand how you actually write. That's not a failure. That's training. That's apprenticeship. That's your college. That's how long it takes to learn your own mind. And one day you're going to be writing and it's just going to feel easier. It's going to feel more joyful. The words are going to flow not just in one session, but on a regular basis. And that's when you've discovered, oh, this is how I write. The problem is a lot of writers quit or contort themselves before they get to that point of writing self-actualization. They abandon a process the moment it gets uncomfortable, or worse, they abandon a process that works because someone else told them that's the way to do it. And once you start paying attention, you will feel the difference. Writing that aligns with your brain feels alive. And writing that fights your brain feels deadening. One drains you and the other exhausts you in a way that honestly still feels worth it. Honoring your process is not indulgent. It's strategic. Your job is not to write like other writers you admire. Your job is to prove that you are true to your own nature. Your job is to finish books again and again over years. And you can't do that if you're constantly doubting the way that you get there, or if you're struggling against your inner nature. And once you figure out how you work best, you have to give yourself permission to stop apologizing for it, to stop justifying it, to stop waiting for external validation. I don't know where my books are going to go, and I'm okay with that, because that's how my brain works. And the joy of that discovery is what keeps me bringing me back to my writing sessions. I trust myself, and I will tell you, self-trust was one of the hardest skills for me to build. It took years and many, many books until I became comfortable not knowing what I was doing. Because this industry trains you to look outward, to compare, to measure, to mimic, to adjust yourself into something marketable. But your process isn't necessarily about branding, it's about your infrastructure. You don't build a house by copying someone else's foundation if you're dealing with two different, very different plots of land. When you honor your process, you'll protect your relationship with the writing, and that's important. You protect your curiosity, you protect your momentum. And if you're stuck right now, I want you to ask a different question. Not what should I be doing, but what am I fighting? Why does this not feel right? Are you forcing structure when your brain wants more discovery? Are you forcing spontaneity when your brain wants more clarity? Those are important questions. And if you're feeling stuck, really lean into those, really explore those. And the answer isn't necessarily to swing wildly to the other extreme. The answer is to pay attention, to notice where your energy shows up, to notice where it disappears. Writing is hard enough without turning yourself into the obstacle. There's no prize for doing it the correct way because there is no correct way. There's only the quiet, stubborn satisfaction of finishing the book. However you get there.